searching for someone who can share that special love with me. And your eyes have that glow. Could it be your face I see on my computer screen? You're a special girl to share with my computer world. No longer be a strategy. Thanks to my technology. You know I've been around from hot sexy mamas to cool pretty girls. I will share my treasure, oh so rare. See your face I see on my computer screen. Such a sweet delight. I will cherish the memory of this night. Yes, I found my computer love. Shoot it up, I wanna love you. Shoot it up, computer love. Shoot it up, I wanna love you. Shoot it up, my computer love. Computer love, computer love, computer love. Digital love, beautiful love, digital love, digital love. It's just beautiful, digital, beautiful, beautiful.
Ahoy, 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 people. Thank you for being here. Hope you're enjoying these old school soul jams. Make sure things are looking good over here, y'all, on my end. Everybody's having a good day, getting a lot of sunshine. Let's make sure things are looking good. They look good. This is Fear and Loving with Ranch. Welcome back, everybody. Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, every week. Great show last week. It was awesome to have my good buddy Truth Now, Gregory on. We're going to get that recording from last week up tonight on my Vimeo, so I'll be sharing that around in case you missed us reading his poem, Fox and Raccoon, part 1 and chapter 1, chapter 2, and my new poem, which I'm going to read today. So we're going to reread my new poem, The Great Lull. And we got some awesome. I'm just gonna hang out and read. You guys, hope you enjoy listening to me talk, because that's what happens here on Fear and Loving with Ranch. I am present and I talk, and sometimes Charles Xavier or Captain Picard gets in the mix. Sometimes we'll see what happens tonight. We are going to be reading. Shortly, we'll be reading Charles Eisenstein's new essay, The Conspiracy Myth, a follow-up to The Coronation, which we've read a couple times the past couple months. We've been doing this for a while, you guys. It's been awesome. Repping BU today. You probably should get out there and go running on campus or something. Jake wants us to show us the sauce, he says. So I did just learn about a new song. Let's just play it real quick. It's a new Usher song. I think you guys have heard of the guy, maybe. But apparently there's this, I don't know, maybe we could find the video. Let's see. Let's get the audio at least. But apparently there's some new dance called the sauce, which works great, considering I am ranch sauce, and we got the bacon ranch show. And we're cooking up some sauce recipes. It's going to be pretty fun. I mean, let's see what's going on here. So this is, I don't exactly know what the name of the song is. Don't Waste My Time by Usher. All right, here's the sauce, Jake.
Yeah, look, everybody at home. We got this new dance called the sauce, right? And I want to see everybody do it with us. All you gotta do is follow my lead. It go like this: to the right, to the right, to the left, to the left. Now hop and clap your hands 2 times. Right foot cross, left foot cross. You go right to the front, right to the side, front, side, slide, and put the sauce on it. Left to the front,
Put the sauce on
to
it.
the side, front, side, slide, and put the sauce to the right, to the right, to the left, to the left.
You know how it is. We're essentially, we're just doing left to right, right to left, tapping. I don't know if you guys do tapping, but it's this new Usher song. It's all about it. So, yeah. So let's see. Let's get into something. What should I start with, you guys? Let's see. I think I'm going to start off by reading from. Let's pull it up. From an essay that I wrote in college. Let's see if we can get this correct. So I got a new format here to my reading. Boom. So hopefully my lips match what I'm saying. I think that they do. That's exciting. I had to switch up the camera because it wasn't doing it before. So I'm going to start off today with my essay, Fear and Loathing, Gonzo Journalism and the Evolution of the Counterculture. This was, let's see when I wrote this. I did drop a link in the chat to an old school blog of mine, No Guerra, no war, pacifism. We do that thing around here. Yes, so this was February 16th, 2009. I was a senior, I believe, senior at Boston University. That's why I'm repping today. We're throwing it back. So let me make sure everything looks good. I think you guys can see me. Holler at me if you can hear me. Holla at me at your boy. That's how I say hi to people, or goodbye rather. I just say holla at your boy. No, I don't. Sometimes. All right, so here we go. Fear and Loathing, Gonzo Journalism, and the Evolution of the Counterculture. By me. The 1960s, and bear with me, I have not edited this since I typed it up and put it on my blog in 2009. So we're gonna don't judge me. My editing has gotten a lot better. The 1960s embodied a time when those who grew to reject the mainstream American values spawned by 50s conservative sensibility decides to take a stand and speak out against them. These Americans dissociated themselves from ideals related to consumerism, conformity, and blind acceptance of the U.S. government's domestic and foreign policies. As the civil rights movement picked up speed and the Vietnam War emerged, the timing was right for members of the political left to push for the creation of lasting social reform in America and embrace new forms of progressive activism. The counterculture perspective, spearheaded largely by America's youth and minority populations, emerged in the 1960s as an optimistic force against the U.S. government's aggressive foreign agenda, corrupt political systems, and unjust domestic civil policies. Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, 72, serves as an approach to traditional politics and journalism, characterized by the revolutionary bedrock of the American counterculture. His personal account of the 72 presidential campaign brings to light the transformation of the 60s counterculture at the dawn of a new decade. In Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72, Hunter S. Thompson leaves no political camp unturned as he tracks the American political establishment cross-country as a journalist for Rolling Stone magazine. He accepts his year-long assignment on the campaign trail as a means of representing brutal, honest political journalism. Quote, "The great American press was a babbling joke, an empire built on gossip and cliches, a final resting place for rumor mongers and pompous boobs." Wow. I'm gonna start calling y'all that. Watch out. Don't fuck with me. While most journalists traveling on the presidential campaign trail in 72 wrote stories that focus on up-to-date developments and information filtered through the candidates' political camps, Thompson embraces a countercultural approach to political coverage and to journalism itself. He ruthlessly abandons faith and support for taboos associated with traditional, strictly non-fictional, objective journalism. Objective journalism is a hard thing to come by these days. So much for objective journalism. Don't bother to look at it for it here, not under any byline of mine. Man, this thing is not edited. Beware. Stick with me. Back to the quote here from Hunter. Or anyone else that I can think of. With the possible exception of things like box scores, race results, and stock market tabulations, there is no such thing as objective journalism. Folks, that was the man, Hunter, writing that in the 60s. He wasn't wrong then, and it still applies today. I hear this conversation happen a lot. The phrase itself is a pompous contradiction of terms. By incorporating fictional writing, adhering strictly to factual accuracy, and writing as the primary source, Thompson's writing looks to include elements of the new journalism style popularized by Tom Wolfe. The result is his own individual breed of new journalism that he refers to as Gonzo journalism. That's what we're here for, guys. We're here to talk Gonzo every day, every week. Thompson's Gonzo approach to reporting does not simply look to uncover the motivations and actions of the politicians he covers, but instead documents all aspects of the environment he experiences around him. I think that's why it's so easy for me to write what seems like an original or even bizarre point of view about scenes or situations that a lot of writers tend to ignore, because they live right in the middle of them. Since his own countercultural perspective separates him from any sort of American social majority, he does not trust the seemingly mundane facets of society to remain separate from the news. We know how that goes, guys. We do. Thank you, Andrew. Got my housemate Andrew down there repping. Let me know it sounds good. Thank you. Let's get back to it here. Where were we? Let's see. I think we were, yeah. His writing in Campaign Trail 72 includes some lucid but often garish details and observations about people, words, and situations that most journalists wouldn't stop to think about, let alone write about. In terms of classic journalism, this kind of wandering, unfounded speculation will have a nasty effect on that asshole from Ireland who sent word across the waters to nail me for bad language and lack of objectivity. There have been numerous complaints, in fact, about the publisher allowing me to get away with calling out new Supreme Court Justice William Rehnquist a swine. Thompson holds nothing back while reporting, allowing his exact thoughts and analysis to escape to his typewriter almost instantaneously. In Campaign Trail 72, Thompson functions as both a journalist working to cover politics in America and a member of the counterculture possessing a strong hatred for corrupt politicians. As he listens to George Wallace give a speech or shakes President Nixon's hand, Thompson brutally examines the candidates at face value. The main problem in a democracy is that crowd pleasers are generally brainless swine who can go out on a stage and whoop their supporters into an orgiastic frenzy. I don't even think that's a word. Searching within the rhetoric and attitudes of political candidates campaigning in 72, Thompson rarely finds the breed of authenticity that the counterculture and he naturally desire. Same here, buddy. Through his reporting, he comes to realize that the run-of-the-mill American public thrives upon a politician's political spin and is largely not a nation of truth lovers. Thompson embraces this concept. Unlike these politicians, however, he does not label his style of fabrication as truth. His literary inventions do not work to cover up the important facts, but instead help to expose them in a remarkable light. Quote, "With the truth so dull and depressing, the only working alternative is wild bursts of madness and filigree." Wow. That's one opinion. The counterculture is not interested in reading about politicians and politics through the same restricted form as their white suburban middle-class counterparts. Thompson's shocking journalistic writing essentially acts as an authentic critique of politics and society written in the language of that counterculture. His writing in Campaign Trail 72 allows him the space to create his own individual journalistic ideal, free from society's outdated norms and criteria. Let's see. After John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963, new left idealists, civil rights activists, and constituents of the counterculture watched Lyndon B. Johnson reluctantly take hold of the reins of the executive office of the president. Looking back on the Johnson administration in Campaign Trail 72, Thompson uncovers his own rationale for the expanding disconnect between the counterculture and traditional American institutions. Johnson did a lot of rotten things in those 5 bloody years, but when the history books are written, he will emerge in his proper role as the man who caused an entire generation of Americans to lose all respect for the presidency, the White House, the Army, and in fact, the whole structure of government. It wasn't just Nixon that Hunter tore a new asshole, guys. It was pretty much every leader that was in the office. But according to Thompson, that younger generation of Americans, supporters of the anti-war movement, watched Johnson fail to uphold their own inherent liberal principles so miserably that the door to the White House is just left wide open for Richard Nixon and his silent majority. Boo. As there's a Mow Down 9 Gonzo banner. You guys know about the band Mow. But yes, back to it. As the legacy of the Vietnam War comes into focus, members of the 60s counterculture are unable to stomach the thought of being left in the dark politically for another decade. This sense of anxiety becomes a reality as the events of 68, the Democratic National Convention, leaves student activists and members of the 60s, members of the counterculture, once a part of the same trip, that wild sense of breakthrough in the late 60s when almost anything seemed possible, feeling alienated and disillusioned. In Campaign Trail 72, Thompson describes the demise of the counterculture's political faith and optimism. Hasn't come back, has it, y'all? Woof. Got some work to do. Quote, Martin Luther King was murdered in April, Bobby Kennedy in June, then Nixon was nominated in July, and in August the Democrats went to Chicago for the final act. By Labor Day it was all over. The movement was finished. In 1972, Thompson believes that the only place left for politics for the student youth movement is to fall in line behind a consensus candidate or crippling the party with another one of those goddamn protest movements that'll end up like all the others and not accomplish anything except to guarantee Nixon's re-election. Sounds like some shit we're dealing with, right? Ooh, can I get a hell yeah, brother? The years of effort and work that protesters and members of the counterculture provide in the 60s to combat all wrongdoing by the U.S. government appears to have little impact at the start of the 70s. Young Americans and boisterous members of the anti-war movement watch as their hopes are quieted, as shown by the words of one character in a 1975 G.B. Trudeau's Doonesbury comic. I don't know if you've ever heard of Doonesbury, guys, but Hunter S. Thompson was a character in this newspaper comic. It looks like his character said, I stopped demonstrating because I didn't think the government was in the least bit responsive. In Campaign Trail 72, Thompson watches as more members of the counterculture, previously optimistic about their political impact, are left with a zealous desire to drop out of society completely. I think we know about a few of those, or have been one at times. Some of us ebb and flow, right? In and out. To wrap this one up, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72 speaks to the American counterculture of the 60s in a way that no other traditional political journalism could. Hunter S. Thompson's Gonzo journalism allows him the freedom to present his readers with an honest account of what he experiences on the campaign trail while drawing his own conclusions about the nature of the present society and American politics. His connection to the counterculture provides him with a unique perspective and the means to understand the true nature of the counterculture as the 70s began. If anybody would like to edit this essay for me 11 years later, you can hit me up. I'll Venmo you. Just kidding. I can probably do that myself. Yes. So, hi. Hey there. So, we're going to just throw on a couple tracks. We're going to play some music real quick, take a breather, and then we will be back with Charles Eisenstein's The Conspiracy Myth. So, can't tell if my video's working. It looks like we're getting a little lag. Can the lag go away? It's hard to see. Just gotta rock with it. Okay, looks like it's okay. All right, let's see. What do we got? Guys? Something new. This is a new Sun Squabby String Cheese Incident track. A little funk. This is Top Down. right, all right. That's enough music. We don't like music around here. Got a new lamp over here, a new light bulb. We'll see if it really works out. I wanted to introduce you guys to an old friend of mine that I use in some of my performance art out there, festivals, Zoom calls, messing around with folks, and that is my good friend here, Hippo. And Hippo is in need of some tooth repair, as you can see there. But yes, this is Hippo. Recently got some new swag. Doing a lot of studying, a lot of chilling. Should Hippo read this essay? Sure, I'll read this essay. No one likes your reading voice, Hippo, so see ya. Alright, what are we gonna read? I think I'm gonna jump into my most recent poem that I read last week. We're gonna go ahead and give it another run. Might as well practice, right? So we're gonna read The Great Lull. Let's go ahead and make it... Let's try and make it much bigger. Let's see. So we are gonna try to get this whole thing to get a lot bigger. See if we can do it. There we go. Boom. Then we just boom, 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 boom. All right, here we go. Hope everybody's doing okay. Let me know if you have any questions, any thoughts on the new poem here. So I wrote this as a response to Truth Now's Fox and Raccoon poem that he read last week. Again, we will have last week's episode up soon on Vimeo for folks to check out. I think it's still up on my Facebook, but I'm just trying to get these episodes organized still. So this is called The Great Lull. The Great Lull. Okay then, Gonzo brethren, I needed a good kick in the ass. I'm ready to spit rhymes to the times and lies that bind. Tide Pod ball gags, Donald won't wear a mask, still paying minimum wage to a low-budget White House cast. And I'm missing running out of gas and sharing little bags and popping tags as the stream lags. I'm thinking back to the year before last. You don't have corona, you just took a hot dab. Our people are everywhere, millennial flags, they multiply, half avatars, half cyborgs, social media stars, whipping blockchains with unaffiliated tattoos. Spent half of our life in chat rooms. 9/11 forever opened our dilated eyes. 2020 is a new vehicle for fresh minds. And who do you think is in the drive? And the know-it-all oldies say, we know best, disregard the mess. Who turned the eye blind to corruption all-consuming? One guess. Too turnt on that boomer pride, social security carrot chasing, tiny circle of friends, tiny perspective. And their own parents, still alive, gotta stop getting wheeled to the polls to vote on one issue forced into their brains by American and Russian trolls. I am part of the U.S. arm that is ready to sacrifice and work and mold my life, my community, and the whole into something where our people are helped along, not just told what to buy, who to distrust, when to speak up, and who to scold. We can't go rave or watch America win gold, but the technology hasn't slowed. And if you are tapped into that constant society of the internet, being at home isn't as scary as it is polled. All futures are someone's dystopia. Be as prepared as ever to fight against the forces that call, against the Great Recession, against the Great Depression, against the Great Lull. Yes. Thank you, everybody. Again, that is The Great Lull. Brand new poem. Haven't really started pushing it out there yet. And I am definitely looking for some ways and some feedback, any creative ideas as to how folks out there think I could take these poems and really get them to pop out there in the world. I think sometimes, at least with my friends' pieces, but I think sometimes my pieces as well. There can be something potentially important, potentially impactful in there, and it's meant to be consumed in the moment, so okay, let's see, what are we gonna do next here? So we've got the main piece of writing, which I have a link in the comments pinned here on Facebook, and I will drop one into Twitch as well. Charles Eisenstein has been popping off out there in the world after his essay, The Coronation, which had a big impact on a lot of folks out there in the world, myself included. Read it a couple of times here on the show, and he's got a new essay called The Conspiracy Myth, and we're going to jump into that. And hopefully some of it resonates with you guys. I know it's been resonating with me, and it's a lengthy piece, and that's going to be it for the show today. We're just going to read this essay and keep it simple. I didn't really set anything up. I am looking forward to having some awesome guests on again. I liked that format, so we're going to keep that going. So let's see here. The Conspiracy Myth. This was written this month. The other day I was amused to read a critique of the coronation in which the author was absolutely certain that I am a closet conspiracy theorist. He was so persuasive that I myself almost believed it. What is a conspiracy theory anyway? Sometimes the term is deployed against anyone who questions authority, dissents from dominant paradigms, or thinks that hidden interests influence our leading institutions. As such, it is a way to quash dissent and bully those trying to stand up to abuses of power. One needn't abandon critical thinking to believe that powerful institutions sometimes collude, conspire, cover up, and are corrupt. That is what is meant by a conspiracy theory. Obviously, some of those theories are true. Yeah. Does anyone remember Enron, Iran-Contra, COINTELPRO, Vioxx, Iraqi weapons of mass destruction? During the time of COVID-19, another level of conspiracy theory has risen to prominence that goes way beyond specific stories of collusion and corruption to posit conspiracy as a core explanatory principle for how the world works. Fueled by the authoritarian response to the pandemic, justifiable or not, lockdown, quarantine, surveillance and tracking, censorship of misinformation, suspension of freedom of assembly and other civil liberties, and so on are indeed authoritarian. Can't deny it, guys. This arch conspiracy theory holds that an evil, power-hungry cabal of insiders deliberately created the pandemic, or is at least ruthlessly exploiting it to frighten the public into accepting a totalitarian world government under permanent medical martial law, a new world order. NWO. Furthermore, this evil group, this Illuminati, pulls the strings of all our major governments, corporations, the United Nations, the WHO, the CDC, the media, the intelligence services, the banks, and the NGOs. In other words, they say, everything we are told is a lie and the world is in the grip of evil. I see those posts out there, y'all. I know some of my friends, many of which are out west, are thinking it. Let's continue. So what do I think about the theory? Again, this is Charles Eisenstein's The Conspiracy Myth essay. He says, so what do I think about that theory? I think it is a myth. And what is a myth? A myth is not the same thing as a fantasy or a delusion. Myths are vehicles of truth, and that truth needn't be literal. The classical Greek myths, for example, seem like mere amusements until one decodes them by associating each god with psychosocial forces. In this way, myths bring light to the shadows and reveal what has been repressed. They take a truth about the psyche or society and form it into a story. The truth of a myth does not depend on whether it is objectively verifiable. That is one reason why in The Coronation, which was his first essay from last month, I said my purpose is neither to advocate nor debunk the conspiracy narrative, but rather to look at what it illuminates. It is, after all, neither provable nor falsifiable. Yeah, how you gonna get that information to know if your conspiracy myth is true or not? Good luck. So, what is true about the conspiracy myth? Underneath its literalism, it conveys important information that we ignore at great peril. First, it demonstrates the shocking extent of public alienation from institutions of authority. For all the political battles of the post-World War II era, there was at least a broad consensus on basic facts and where facts could be found. The key institutions of knowledge production, science and journalism, enjoyed broad public trust. What a time, huh? If only that was today. If the New York Times and CBS Evening News said that North Vietnam attacked the United States in the Gulf of Tonkin, most people believed it. Science said nuclear power and DDT were safe, most people believed that too. To some extent, that trust was well earned. Journalists sometimes defied the interests of the powerful, as with Seymour Hersh's expose of the My Lai massacre, or Woodward and Bernstein's reporting on Watergate. Science, in the vanguard of civilization's onward march, had a reputation for the objective pursuit of knowledge and defiance of traditional religious authorities, as well as a reputation for lofty disdain for political and financial motives. Water check. All right, we're back. Today, the broad consensus trust in science and journalism is in tatters. I know several highly educated people who believe the Earth is flat. By dismissing flat earthers and tens of millions of adherents to less extreme alternative narratives, historical, medical, political, and scientific, as ignorant, we are mistaking symptom for cause. Their loss of trust is a clear symptom of a loss of trustworthiness. Our institutions of knowledge production have betrayed public trust repeatedly, as have our political institutions. Preach, brother. True. Now, many people won't believe them even when they tell the truth. This must be frustrating to the scrupulous doctor, scientist, or public official. To them, the problem looks like a public gone mad, a rising tide of anti-scientific irrationality that is endangering public health. The solution, from that perspective, would be to combat ignorance. It's almost as if ignorance is a virus. Wow. Big thought. In fact, I have heard that phrase before. That must be controlled through the same kind of quarantine. For example, censorship that we apply to the coronavirus. Ooh, hot topic. Don't nobody like that. Me neither. Ironically, another kind of ignorance pervades both these efforts, the ignorance of the terrain. What is the diseased tissue upon which the virus of ignorance gains purchase? The loss of trust in science, journalism, and government reflects their long corruption, their arrogance and elitism, their alliance with corporate interests, and their institutionalized suppression of dissent. Wow. Their institutionalized suppression of dissent. Welcome to the power. The conspiracy myth embodies the realization of a profound disconnect between the public postures of our leaders and their true motivations and plans. It bespeaks a political culture that is opaque to the ordinary citizen, a world of secrecy, image, PR, spin, optics, talking points, perception management, narrative management, and information warfare. Sounds like a Donald Trump order from Burger King. No wonder people suspect that there is another reality operating behind the curtains. No wonder. Second, the conspiracy myth gives narrative form to an authentic intuition that an inhuman power governs the world. What could that power be? The conspiracy myth locates that power in a group of malevolent human beings who take commands in some versions from extraterrestrial or demonic entities. Therein lies a certain psychological comfort because now there is someone to blame in a familiar us versus them narrative in victim, perpetrator, rescuer psychology. Alternatively, We could locate the inhuman power in systems or ideologies, not a group of conspirators. That is less psychologically rewarding because we can no longer easily identify as good fighting evil. After all, we ourselves participate in these systems, which pervade our entire society. Systems like the debt-based money system, patriarchy, white supremacy, or capitalism cannot be removed by fighting their administrators. They create roles for evildoers to fill, but the evildoers are functionaries, puppets, not puppet masters. The basic intuition of conspiracy theories then is true, that those we think hold power are but puppets of the real power in the world. Those we think hold power are but puppets of the real power in the world. That is the basic intuition of conspiracy theories. It is true. A couple weeks ago, I was on a call with a person who had held a high position in the Obama administration and who still runs in elite circles. He said, "There is no one driving the bus." I was a little disappointed, actually, because there is indeed part of me that wishes the problem were a bunch of dastardly conspirators. Why? Because then our world's problems would be quite easy to solve, at least in principle. Just expose and eliminate those bad guys. That is prevailing Hollywood formula for righting the world's wrongs. A heroic champion confronts and defeats the bad guy and everyone lives happily ever after. That is the same basic formula as blaming ill health on germs and killing them with the arsenal of medicine, so that we can live safe, healthy lives ever after. Or killing the terrorists and walling out the immigrants and locking up the criminals. All again so that we can live safe, happily, healthy lives ever after. Stamped from the same template, conspiracy theories tap into an unconscious orthodoxy. They emanate from the same mythic pantheon as the social ills they protest. We might call that pantheon separation, and one of its chief motives is the war against the other. Yikes. Sound familiar? That is not to say there is no such thing as a germ or a conspiracy. Watergate, Counterculture, Iran-Contra, Merrick's drug Vivox, Ford's exploding Pinto cover-up, Lockheed Martin's bribery campaign, Bayer's knowing sale of HI-contaminated blood. Yeah, that was a rough one. And the Enron scandal to demonstrate that conspiracies involving powerful elites do happen. None of the above are myths, though. A myth is something that explains the world. It is mysteriously bigger than itself. Thus, the Kennedy assassination conspiracy theory, which I will confess, doubtless at cost to my credibility, to accepting as literally true, is a portal to the mythic realm. The conspiracy myth I'm addressing here, though, is much larger than any of these specific examples. It is that the world we know is the result of a conspiracy, with the Illuminati or controllers as its evil gods. For believers, it becomes a totalizing discourse that casts every event into its terms. That seems to be what's going on. Totalizing discourse that casts every event into its terms. It's happening. It is a myth with an illustrious pedigree, going back at least to the time of the first century Gnostics. Gnostics believed that an evil demiurge created the material world out of a pre-existing divine essence. Creating the world in an image of its own distortion, he imagines himself to be its true God and ruler. One needn't believe in this literally, nor believe literally in a world controlling evil cabal, to derive insight from this myth. Insight into the arrogance of the powerful, for example, or into the nature of the distortion that colors the world of our experience. What is it that makes the vast majority of humanity comply with a system that drives Earth and humankind to ruin? What power has us in its grip? It isn't just the conspiracy theorists who are captive to a mythology. Society at large is too. I call it the mythology of separation. Me separate from you, matter separate from spirit, humans separate from nature. It holds us as discrete and separate selves in an objective universe of force and mass, atoms and void, because we are, in this myth, separate from other people and from nature. We must dominate our competitors and master nature. Progress, therefore, consists in increasing our capacity to control the other. The myth recounts human history as an ascent from one triumph to the next, from fire to domestication to industry to information technology, genetic engineering and social science, promising a coming paradise of control. That same myth motivates the conquest and ruin of nature, organizing society to turn the entire planet into money. No conspiracy necessary. The mythology of separation is what generates what I named in the coronation as the civilizational tilt towards control. The solution template is facing any problem to find something to control, to quarantine, to track, to imprison, to wall out, to dominate, or to kill. If control fails, more control will fix it. To achieve social and material paradise, control everything, track every movement, monitor every word, record every transaction. Then there can be no more crime, no more infection, no more disinformation. When the entire ruling class accepts this formula and this vision, they will act in natural concert to increase their control. It is all for the greater good. When the public accepts it too, they will not resist it. This is not conspiracy, though it can certainly look like one. This is a third truth within the conspiracy myth. Events are indeed orchestrated in the direction of more and more control. Only the orchestrating power itself is a zeitgeist, an ideology, a myth. Conspiracy with no conspirators. Let us not dismiss the conspiracy myth as just a myth. Not only is it an important psychological diagnostic, but it reveals what is otherwise hard to see from the official mythology in which society's main institutions, while flawed, are shepherding us ever closer to a higher tech paradise. That dominant myth blinds us to the data points the conspiracy theorists recruit for their narratives. This might include things like regulatory capture in the pharmaceutical industry, conflicts of interest within public health organizations, the dubious efficacy of masks, the far lower than hyped death rates, totalitarian overreach, the questionable utility of lockdown, concerns about non-ionizing frequencies of electromagnetic radiation, the benefits of natural and holistic approaches to boosting immunity, bioterrain theory, the dangers of censorship in the name of combating disinformation, and so forth. Heard about all that stuff? You guys into that thing? Which ones? Let me know. Let me know in the chat which one of those you did. It would be nice if one could raise the numerous valid points and legitimate questions that alternative COVID narratives bring to light without being classed as a right-wing conspiracy theorist. That would be nice. Sure we all like to feel that. The whole phrase right-wing conspiracy theorist is a bit odd, since traditionally it is the left that has been most alert to the proclivity of the powerful to abuse their power. Traditionally, it is the left that is suspicious of corporate interests, that urges us to question authority, and that has in fact been the main victim of government infiltration and surveillance. 50 years ago, if anyone said there is a secret program called Counterculture that is spying on civil rights groups and sowing division within them with poison pen leathers and fabricated rumors, that would have been a conspiracy theory by today's standards. The same 25 years ago with there's a secret program in which the CIA facilitates narcotic sales into American inner cities with government infiltration of environmental groups and peace activists starting in the 1980s. Or more recently, the infiltration of the Standing Rock movement. Or real estate industry's decades-long conspiracy to redline neighborhoods to keep black people out. Given this history, why all of a sudden is it the left urging everyone to trust the man, to trust the pronouncements of the pharmaceutical companies and the pharma-funded organizations like the CDC and WHO? Why is skepticism towards institutions labeled right-wing? It isn't as if only the privileged are inconvenienced by lockdown. It is devastating the lives of tens of or hundreds of millions of the global precariat. The UN World Food Program is warning that by the end of the year, 260 million people will face starvation. Most are black and brown people in Africa and South Asia. One might argue that to restrict the debate to epidemiological questions, oh my gosh, I just butchered that word, of mortality itself, a privileged stance that erases the suffering of those who are most marginalized to begin with. We're going to act like that sentence didn't happen by yourself here. So to take a break, so my brain can reset, we are reading the new essay by Charles Eisenstein, The Conspiracy Myth, to follow up his first essay, The Coronation. And this is Fear and Loving with Ranch. Settle in, close your eyes and listen to the sweet sound of my voice. And we'll get through this essay here. So, conspiracy theory has become a term of political invective. used to disparage any view that diverges from mainstream beliefs. Basically, any critique of dominant institutions can be smeared as a conspiracy theory. There is actually a perverse truth in this smear. For example, if you believe that glyphosate is actually dangerous to human and ecological health, then you must also, if you are logical, believe that Bayer Monsanto is suppressing or ignoring that information, and you must also believe that the government, media, and scientific establishments are to some extent complicit in that suppression. Otherwise, we are not seeing New York Times headlines like Monsanto whistleblower reveals dangers of glyphosate. Or why are we not? Information suppression can happen without deliberate orchestration. Throughout history, hysterias, intellectual fads, and mass delusions have come and gone spontaneously. This is more mysterious than the easy conspiracy explanation admits. An unconscious coordination of action can look very much like a conspiracy, and the boundary between the two is blurry. Consider the weapons of mass destruction, fraud, that served as a pretext for the invasion of Iraq. Maybe there were people in the Bush administration who knowingly used the phony yellow cake document to call for war. Maybe they just wanted very much to believe the documents were genuine. Or maybe they thought, well, this is questionable, but Saddam must have a WMD because if he doesn't, he wants them, so the document is basically true. People easily believe what serves their interests or fits their existing worldview. Damn, it's hard to escape that one, you guys. Gotta work at it, though. Don't be one of those. In a similar vein, the media needed little encouragement to start beating the war drums. They knew what to do already without having to receive instructions. I don't think very many journalists actually believed the WMD lie. They pretended to believe because subconsciously they knew that was the establishment narrative. That was what would get them recognized as serious journalists. That's what would give them their access to power. That is what would allow them to keep their jobs and advance their careers. But most of all, they pretended to believe because everyone else was pretending to believe. It's hard to go against the zeitgeist. Oh boy. Say that again. It's hard to go against the zeitgeist. You gotta take the zeitgeist, put your walls up. Get away from me, zeitgeist. The British scientist Rupert Sheldrake told me about a talk he gave to a group of scientists who were working on animal behavior at a prestigious British university. He was talking about his research on dogs that know when their owners are coming home and other telepathic phenomena in domestic animals. The talk was received with a kind of polite silence, but in the following tea break, all 6 of the senior scientists who were present at the seminar came to him one by one, and when they were sure that no one else was listening, told him that they had had experiences of this kind with their own animals, or that they were convinced that telepathy is a real phenomenon. But they could not talk to their colleagues about this because they were also straight. When Sheldrake realized that all 6 had told him much the same thing, he said to them, "Why don't you guys come out? You'd all have so much fun." He says that when he gives a talk at a scientific institution, there are nearly always scientists who approach him afterwards telling him they've had personal experiences that convince them of the reality of psychic or spiritual phenomena, but that they can't discuss them with their colleagues for fear of being thought weird. Oh boy, there we are. We've brought it all home to Fear and Loving with Ranch. Don't be afraid to be thought of as weird, people. Simple stuff. If anything, here's weird, here's you. Get in there. Live in it. Don't fall prey to being afraid to be weird. That's stupid. People make mistakes in that space. Okay, back to it. This is not a deliberate conspiracy to suppress psychic phenomena. Those 6 scientists who didn't convene beforehand and decide to suppress information they knew was real. They keep their opinions to themselves because of the norms of their subculture, the basic paradigms that delimit science, and the very real threat of damage to their careers. The persecution and calamity directed at Sheldrake himself demonstrates what happens to a scientist who is outspoken in his dissent from official scientific reality. So we might say that a conspiracy is afoot, but its perpetrator is a culture, a system, and a story. It is this, or a deliberate conspirational agenda, a more satisfying explanation for the seemingly inexorable trends, which by no means began with COVID, towards surveillance, tracking, distancing, germ phobia, obsession with safety, and the digitization and indoorization of entertainment, recreation, and society. If the perpetrator is indeed a cultural mythology and system, then conspiracy theories offer us a false target, a distraction. The remedy cannot be to expose and take down those who have foisted this trend upon us. Of course, there are many bad actors in our world, remorseless people committing heinous acts, but they have created a system in the mythology of separation. Or do they merely, but have they created the system and mythology of separation, or do they merely take advantage of it? Certainly such people should be stopped, but if that's all we do and leave unchanged the conditions that breed them, we will fight an endless war. Just as in bioterrain germs are symptoms and exploiters of diseased tissue, so also are conspirational cabals symptoms and exploiters of a diseased society, a society poisoned by the mentality of war, fear, separation, and control. That's us. This deep ideology, the myth of separation, is beyond anyone's power to invent. The Illuminati, if they exist, are not its authors. It is more true to say that the mythology is the author. We do not create our myths, they create us. Which side are you on? In the end, I still haven't said whether I think the New World Order conspiracy myth is true or not. Well, actually, yes, I have. I have said it is true as a myth, regardless of its correspondence to verifiable facts. But what about the facts? Come on, Charles, tell us, is there actually a conspiracy behind the COVID thing, or isn't there? There must be an objective fact of the matter. Are chemtrails a thing? Was SARS-CoV-2 genetically engineered? Is microwave radiation from cell phone towers a factor? Are vaccines introducing viruses from animal cell cultures into people? Is Bill Gates masterminding a power grab in the form of medical martial law? Does a Luciferian elite rule the world? True or false, yes or no? To this question, I would respond with another. Given that I am not an expert on any of these matters, why do you want to know what I think? Could it be to place me on one side or another of the information war? Then you will know whether it is okay to enjoy this essay, share it, or have me on your podcast. In an us versus them war mentality, the most important thing is to know which side someone is on, lest you render aid and comfort the enemy. Aha, Charles must be on the other side, because he has created a false equivalency between peer-reviewed, evidence-based, respectable scientific knowledge on the one hand, and unhinged conspiracy theories on the other. Aha, Charles must be on the other side, because he has created a false equivalency between corporate government NWO propaganda on the one hand, and brave whistleblowers and dissidents risking their careers for the truth on the other. Can you see how totalizing war mentality can be? War mentality saturates our polarized society, which envisions progress as a consequence of victory. Victory over a virus, over the ignorant, over the left, over the right, over the psychopathic elites, over Donald Trump, over white supremacy, over the liberal elites. Each side uses the same formula, and that formula requires an enemy. So, obligingly, we divide ourselves up into us and them, exhausting 99% of our energies in a fruitless tug-of-war, never once suspecting that the true evil power might be the formula itself. This is not to propose that we somehow banish conflict from human affairs. It is to question a mythology, embraced by both sides, that conceives every problem in conflict's terms. Struggle and conflict have their place, but other plot lines are possible. There are other pathways to healing and to justice. A call for humility. Have you ever noticed that events seem to organize themselves to validate the story you hold about the world? Selection bias and confirmation bias explain some of that, but I think something weirder is at work as well. When we enter into deep faith or deep paranoia, it seems as if that state attracts conformity events to it. Reality organizes itself to match our stories. In a sense, this is a conspiracy, just not one perpetrated by humankind. That might be a third truth that the conspiracy myth harbors, the presence of an organizing intelligence behind the events in our lives. In no way does this imply the New Age nostrum that believes create reality. Rather, it is that reality and belief construct each other, co-evolving as a coherent whole. The intimate, mysterious connection between myth and reality means that belief is never actually a slave to fact. We are facts sovereign, which is not to say their creator. To be their sovereign doesn't mean to be their tyrant, disrespecting and overruling them. The wise monarch pays attention to an unruly subject, such as a fact that defies the narrative. Maybe it is simply a disturbed troublemaker, like a simple lie, but maybe it signals disharmony in the kingdom. Maybe the kingdom is no longer legitimate. Maybe the myth is no longer true. It could well be that the vociferous attacks on COVID dissent using the conspiracy theory smear signal the infirmity of the orthodox paradigms that they seek to uphold. If so, that doesn't mean the orthodox paradigms are all wrong either. To leap from one certainty to another skips the holy ground of uncertainty, of not knowing, of humility, into which genuinely new information can come. What unites the pundits of all persuasions is their certainty. Who is trustworthy? Anybody know? Let me know. Me? Maybe? Charles? In the end, it is the person with the humility to recognize when he or she has been wrong. Great tool. Love that one. To those who categorically dismiss any information that seriously challenges conventional medicine, lockdown policies, vaccines, etc., I would ask, do you need such high walls around your kingdom? Instead of banishing these unruly subjects, would it hurt to give them an audience? Would it be so dangerous to perhaps tour another kingdom guided not by your own loyal minister, but the most intelligent, welcoming partisans of the other side? If you have no interest in spending the several hours it'll take to absorb the following dissenting opinions, fine. I'd rather be in my garden too. But if you are a partisan in these issues, what harm will it do to visit enemy territory? Normally, partisans don't do that. They rely on the reports of their own leaders about the enemy. If they know anything of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s or Judy Mikovits's views, it is through the lens of someone debunking them. So give a listen to Kennedy, or if you prefer MDs only, to David Katz, Zach Bush, Christine Northrup. Just to pause for a second, I really like that idea a lot. Just the idea of seeing that enemy territory, of like observing and understanding why there are these opinions that are so different than yours, and where are they coming from, and what are those people like, and what's their experience, and like can't we be one with them despite their potentially dangerous or crazy thoughts? Like can we find common ground, and because if we can't, and we're just constantly observing why someone is wrong or different than us everywhere we look, and everybody else is doing that, then it's like imagining like a crack just expanding. So we've been seeing that crack expand. This essay and what we're talking about here is doing the critical thinking around like what can we do to fix this, and it's not beating one side or the other. Back to what he was saying here. I would like to offer the same invitation to those who reject the conventional view. Find the most scrupulous mainstream doctors and scientists you can and dive into their world. Take the attitude of a respectful guest, not a hostile spy. If you do that, I guarantee you will encounter data points that challenge any narrative you came in with. The splendor of conventional virology, the wonders of chemistry that generations of scientists have discovered, the intelligence and sincerity of most of these scientists, and the genuine altruism of healthcare workers on the front line who have no political or financial conflict of interest in the face of grave risk to themselves, must be part of that satisfactory narrative. Look at all of it, not just a little bit of that other side, guys. After 2 months of obsessively searching for one, I have not yet found a satisfactory narrative that can account for every data point. That doesn't mean to take no action, because after all, knowledge is never certain. But in the whirlwind of competing narratives and the disjoint mythologies beneath them, we can look for action that makes sense no matter what side is right. I'm going to repeat that. We can look for action that makes sense no matter which side is right. We can look for truths that the smoke and clamor of the battle obscures. Love that. We can question assumptions from both sides, we can question assumptions both sides take for granted, and ask questions neither side is asking. Not identified with either side, we can gather knowledge from both, generalizing to society. By bringing in all the voices, including the marginalized ones, we can build a broader social consensus and begin to heal the polarization that is paralyzing our society. Repeating the last line, generalizing to society, By bringing in all the voices, including the marginalized ones, we can build a broader social consensus and begin to heal the polarization that is rending and paralyzing our society. Hell yes. We did it. What an awesome read. Amazing thoughts. So I've got the link in the chat here for you guys. You can go to charleseisenstein.org. Check out his essays. This one's the conspiracy myth, and there's also the coronation, which was just came out at a time that was just super valuable. Whoa, I'm observing. I think my voice is coming through different times on one camera than the other. We got to work on these cameras, you guys. We will do so. But I am going to call it tonight. Lots of reading for your buddy Ranch here. Just practicing, Deep down, I just want to. Let's see here, real quick. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this one. Launch tech. Boom. We're gonna get rid of that one. We're gonna expand this one. Okay. I think that's good. Yeah. Yep. You guys can see me in real time. That makes me feel good. Doesn't give me that anxiety around my stream. But I think about why I love to talk and read things out loud so much. And the first thought I had was just how I used to go to this shop when I was younger, and I would just rent audiobooks like on cassette tape, big boxes of them, and would just love to listen to people read stories to me, especially while I went to bed. It was a great way to go sleep. And I did that with my brother. We lived in the same room. We listened to Star Wars and Flash Gordon and, Lord of the Rings, things like that on tape. So it's definitely one of those thoughts that just comes to mind, that like, why do I love doing this so much? But, we're going to keep working on the podcast, Fear and Loving. Feeling pretty good at about 1.0 where we've taken it to this point. I'm going to be getting some new equipment, more of podcast equipment, definitely some better webcams, and just kind of functioning things a little differently for sure. And then we're going to have some awesome new guests. We had Truth Now on last week. Not exactly sure who we're going to have on next. I've actually going to be sending an email out to Charles Eisenstein. If he does accept and does join me here, we'll probably be promoting that for a while and getting people warmed up, and maybe he'll help. That'd be awesome. I want to get some more eyes on this. So, if you're feeling it, you're really enjoying it while you're watching, or you're feeling like, it's valuable information, always think to share it for me. Bring some new people into this. You can find us at Fear and Loving on Facebook, Real Fear and Loving on Instagram and Twitch. I'm also, really cognizant of the fact that I would like to see my show more or less just only be live on Twitch, and we're just going to see who can make it, and we're going to start pointing people in that direction and having people watch on the channel there, so that I can hone in on how I communicate to the public, and how we kind of get people to subscribe, and how we communicate and get people engaged. It's not actually as easy as you think on Facebook. You might jump in a live stream for a couple seconds. You don't really have the plan to be watching the show or watching the podcast or whatever. So, in an ideal world, people would, if you did a podcast or you were doing a show, they would know when it was. It would be scheduled. Maybe it'd be in their inbox, their event page, and then they would know where to go. Like you would go to watch a show on Fox News. This is just like those shows. I am just, working to be ready for that screen. I really want them to put me on. Tell Fox News this guy is the pundit that they need. But we're keeping it Gonzo. We're just gonna keep spreading on the Gonzo sauce. I think maybe if I had a sauce, that might be one of them. I'm cooking up a bunch of sauce ideas with bacon ranch, bacon sauce, bacon ranch sauce. These ideas are valuable and also malleable. We could switch them up. especially with some input. So you guys let me know any thoughts about my show. I would love to hear. And we'll leave you guys on. Let's see. We're gonna try something new here. We're going to change up the. We're gonna change up the text here, so you guys can watch me mess around on OBS in real time. Let's see. Where's my text? Here it is. Okay, so I think it's this one. Nope. Let's see. Is it 5-minute warning? Yeah. See you next week, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. Boom. Okay. So now you guys are seeing my little marker here, but I will sign off. Say goodbye. Much love. I would highly recommend checking out the essay. Feel free to hit me up if you want to get that link to the conspiracy myth. You know, just reading through it like I just did. I mean, it did take a while, especially reading it out loud, but you know, I've got so much kind of brewing inside that I can like work off of to kind of help me make sense of this world and like figure out what we're going to do. I mean, those are two things that are really difficult to feel good about, let alone do the work. So we got to do it for our benefit and our family and our community. And, you know, we just have to have that purpose and that want to be a part of that future and to be a positive part. So, you know, I encourage you to do that and to figure out your place. And we're going to keep doing this. This next weekend, there's a Stream Fest happening. A lot of my good friends are going to be playing on that. You can look up Stream Fest on Facebook. It's a Jamcast is the group that's doing it, and my roommate Bake Jointon will be playing a set Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. Looking forward to playing some festivals myself. Got plans there. Might record a set tonight. I mean, you know, we're just getting creative. Music, journalism, costumes. Probably should wear full costume next week, maybe. I should ask my guests to wear costumes. Everybody loves costumes. I need a little kitten running around this show, though. That'd be awesome. Just hold it up to the camera. Meow. Let's leave everybody on some music real quick. We'll leave this up just so people don't forget that we exist over here. What do we got? We got some new Closey.
Seems like it's been forever since we had time to breathe. Let's break on out of living, spinning out at breakneck speed. I don't care about what the time is or where this road will lead. I'm grateful cause when I'm with you, you know I got all I need. Right here, all my troubles disappear like when I'm looking in your eyes and I can see things crystal clear, my dear. And you know I love you every day and night, just like the sun and moon come round. And you know I love you every day and night, just like the sun and moon come back around, come back around. You know I love you every day and night, just like the sun and moon. I'm not worried about yesterday, today, or about tomorrow. When I hold you in my arms, I feel the healing of my sorrows. Just fall away like dry leaves turn to petals in the spring. The magic that you bring unlocks that thing inside of me, my baby. Right here, all my troubles disappear like when I'm looking in your eyes and I can see things crystal clear, my dear. And you know I love you every day and night, just like the sun and moon come round. And you know I love you every day and night, just like the sun and moon come back around, come back around. You know I love you every day and night, just like the sun and moon come back around, come back around. You know I love you every day and night, just like the sun and moon. I believe we can find love in this life, that we can ignite. I believe we can be stars in the night, that's brighter than bright. I believe there is a love in this life that we can ignite, and that's why I'll be by your side through this life. Alright.